Mordecai and Rigby were skipping out on work again, something they did often which annoyed their boss Benson, and this time was no exception. They were in the kitchen, and while Mordecai was eating a sandwich, Rigby was making, well, something. The Blue Jay couldn't quite figure out what. "Dude, what are you making?" Mordecai questioned. "Just hold on," and done. "I present to you rig juice." Rigby spoke proud of his concoction. The bird looked at the drink in confusion, asking, "What in the hell is that?" "It's my very own drink, like how that lemon whatever guy has lemonade. I have rig juice," Rigby answered. Mordecai didn't even want to know what was in it. That's when Benson barged into the kitchen yelling at the two and telling them to get back to work or they were fired. Obviously they did so, and as they were raking the leaves, Mordecai began to think, was this all there was to his life? Wake up, do work, skip out on work, play video games or something like that, and then get yelled by Benson, rinse and repeat? He was in his 20s, and what did he have to show for his life? A dead-end job with his best friend who was also an idiot? This was not how he envisioned his life to be going. He dropped out of art school and now he was here. "Dude, forget the leaves, let's go play some video games," Rigby said. Mordecai looked at him and then at the sky and answered, "Dude, what are we doing? We're stuck here in the park doing what with our lives?" Rigby was a bit taken aback, but he began to think that, yeah, he was lazy, but Mordecai was right. What were they doing? The two friends had always envisioned themselves to be doing something more, but yet here they were. That was when Rigby told Mordecai, "I think I have a solution to our problem." The raccoon then brought out a little baggie with tabs of something inside. Mordecai couldn't believe what he was looking at. "Dude, is that acid?" the Blue Jay questioned. "Bingo," the raccoon responded. "Are you insane? There's no way I'm doing acid," Mordecai stammered. Bro, chill, it's all good, nothing bad will happen. It's just supposed to give you an experience that will change your life for the better, or for worse," Rigby told him. Mordecai was still a bit hesitant, but what the hell, why not, he thought. So the two friends stopped raking the leaves and went back inside. Rigby went to the kitchen and Mordecai followed. "We're gonna take this the Rigby way, with some rig juice," the raccoon spoke. The Blue Jay responded, "There's no way in hell I'm drinking that," but 30 seconds later, the two had full cups of rig juice with 2 tabs of acid they just put on their tongues. After that, they downed the rig juice and waited for things to kick in. The two decided to play video games, and after about an hour, started to kick in. Mordecai and Rigby began to laugh at every little thing. It didn't matter what it was, they laughed at it. They were having a great time, but that's when the real effects started to kick in. Colors began to take a vivid appearance. They would focus on something, and before they knew it, 5 minutes had passed while still staring at it. The video game they were playing began to warp and change, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Mordecai and Rigby looked at each other and just laughed. However, that's when the thoughts in Mordecai's head began to take a dark turn. With one thought of, what if Rigby wasn't here anymore, crossing his mind, he couldn't shake it. From there, more dark thoughts began to emerge. What are you doing with your life? They're responsible, so get rid of them. Everyone in your life that brings you down, get rid of them. Mordecai felt like he was in a trance. His body was moving, but his mind was elsewhere. He looked at Rigby, who was looking at his hands in awe. However, that's when Mordecai punched Rigby in the face and pinned him to the ground. Rigby, while still inebriated, knew what was happening and yelled, "Dude, what the hell? Why'd you punch me? And fucking get off of me, bro." Mordecai didn't answer, and he just looked at Rigby, who stared back in confusion and fear. That's when Mordecai picked up the game console and used it to smash Rigby's face in, killing his best friend. And just as Mordecai finished caving in Rigby's skull, Benson walked in about to yell at the two when he witnessed the horrific scene. The gumball machine was at a loss for words, but that's when Mordecai quickly ran up to him and punched him in the face as well before throwing him against the door and breaking it. Benson landed outside but picked himself up, but he saw the Blue Jay slowly walking towards him. He was about to get up and run, but Mordecai pinned his leg to the ground and broke it. He went on to break Benson's other leg as well, and that's when the Blue Jay dragged his boss over to the rake by the leaves. Benson screamed for help, but he couldn't do anything as Mordecai picked up the rake and slammed it into Benson's face over and over and over until Benson's head was nothing but a mushy pile. Muscle Man, High Five Ghost, Pops, and Skips all heard the cry for help, and they saw Mordecai hovering over Benson's corpse holding the bloody rake. Before the four realized it, Mordecai had broken the rake and turned it into a makeshift wooden stick, a spear so to speak, and he chucked it at Skips, hitting him in the shoulder. Skips held his wound and pulled the wooden stick out, but as he did, Mordecai ran back inside and the four followed him. As they walked inside, they saw the TV that was on static, and they also saw what was left of Rigby. Pops vomited, but Skips told them that they needed to find Mordecai to stop him from hurting anyone else. That's when Mordecai appeared at the top of the stairs with a gun in hand. He proceeded to shoot Muscleman in the head, following by emptying the clip into Skips to try and take out the immortal. Skips was heavily injured but was still able to move. However, Pops and High Fives looked at Muscleman's corpse and High Fives screamed in rage and made his way to Mordecai. Skips told him to wait, but that's when Mordecai pulled out a book and began chanting strange words. Skips recognized this, but before he could act, Mordecai finished the chant and High Five Ghost was now a tangible being, which means he could be killed. High Fives felt a little strange from the chant, but kept moving up the stairs nonetheless. However, Mordecai reacted faster and pulled out a big kitchen knife and proceeded to gut High Fives. He stabbed him repeatedly until there was hardly anything left of the tangible ghost. Pops was scared. He was seeing his friends die one by one, and Skips yelled at him to get out of there, but as Pops was about to run, Mordecai threw the knife at him and it struck at the back of his skull. Pops slowed down to a halt before feeling the back of his head and seeing blood in his hands before falling to the ground dead. Skips, while injured, knew he had to stop Mordecai and realized that he must be on something or else he wouldn't have done all this. Mordecai then walked down the stairs and grabbed a baseball bat that was at the bottom and began to hit Skips repeatedly. He broke multiple bones, and even though the Yeti tried to fight back, it was to no avail. Eventually, Skips was barely able to move, and Mordecai looked at the Yeti and dragged him outside. He lit him on fire before waiting for the flames to go out, and then he dug a grave and pushed Skips inside, but not before breaking his arms, both legs, multiple other bones, taking his hearing, cutting his tongue out, and gouging out his eyes. He looked at the near-death Yeti and filled the hole back up. What was the point of immortality if you couldn't move, hear, feel, or see? He couldn't die, so Mordecai gave Skips a fate worse than death. That's when Mordecai made his way over to the city and walked to Margaret's apartment. Eileen opened the door, and before she could utter a word, Mordecai gutted her. He pushed her body to the side as Margaret walked in to see who was at the door. She saw Mordecai in the doorway standing over Eileen's body. She screamed and could only walk back in fear as Mordecai made his way to her. He inched his way closer until they were face to face, and Margaret could peer into Mordecai's eyes and his into hers. She saw nothing. It was like he wasn't there. She tried to call out to him, but he didn't say anything, and that's when he used the same knife he killed Eileen with to stab Margaret. As she slowly fell to the ground, her hand touched Mordecai's face, caressing it. The acid Mordecai had taken was slowly wearing off, as it had been a good while, and the sight of what he saw in front of him horrified him. It wasn't a dream. He thought the things he did was just one bad nightmare, but the Blue Jay now knew the truth. He had killed everyone. Mordecai dropped to his knees on the floor while Margaret saw him come back to his senses, and she smiled. Mordecai held Margaret as she died in his arms, and tears began to well up in his eyes. What had he done? All of this over a stupid drug? All of his friends and the girl he loved were dead because of him. He couldn't live with himself for being so stupid, but while holding her body, Mordecai saw the window and realized what he needed to do. He put Margaret to the side and opened the window up, and he took one last glance towards the corpse of the love of his life, and he leapt out the window. Mordecai smiled in the face of death. This was his penance for the atrocities he had committed. Mordecai hit the ground and died on impact. Later that night, the news gave a report of a deranged Blue Jay who was under the influence of LSD, who had taken the lives of his boss and co-workers, and then 2 innocent females before tossing himself out of a window. A tale that would shock the nation.